Uhuru, my name is Brandon Walker. I'm with the Ujima People's Progress Party. I'm the statewide outreach coordinator with Ujima, and I thank you all for having me out here. And I want to be sure that I enumerate the issues, but particularly narrow it down to a clear view and a clear path where we can see it with two focused eyes. And with that being said, we're going to start with housing, education, and why we're building an independent Black worker-led political party. So as I stand right here, I do see some class contradictions. I also see some class enemies, class traitors, and that needs to be stated. Because I am part of the working class, I am part of the proletarian, and I too am a paycheck away from homelessness. So I won't speak above you, I won't be beneath you, but I'll fight beside you. With that being said, we want to speak about the issues that we see in housing and these contradictions. Right now, as we see it, we're looking at a 3-tiered, maybe a 4-level problem. We will have to look no further than Fallsway, over there near St. Paul, to see that people are outside of a church. Churches that get taxes from the money that you pay, just so they can be outside begging for handouts. A contradiction in housing. And also with those who are in low-income housing who are being forced out. Those who are behind on their rent or cannot pay it due to certain external circumstances or the abnormalities that we're facing that people are trying to respond to in the normal way. And these housing contradictions that we're talking about, we also looking at the TIFs, the pilots, how money goes downtown and uptown looks like shit. Like you know, we got to be honest about these things here, because again, it's easy for someone to tell you that, okay, we all in this together, but you don't live in my community. It's easy for someone to tell you that, you know, your issue is about, okay, standing together, waiting for legislation and waiting to play the political line or the bureaucratic process, when truth be told, you have to still be a part of that class to have any say-so or equal representation. And when we're talking about the housing and the 3-tiered question about homelessness trying to get into housing, there's still those folks who live in subsidized housing, MBQ, Section 8, and also have, you know, rent deferments or some kind of way that they need help with their paying of rent and to get closer to home ownership, who do not get offered those plans. Whole rows in different districts. They telling lies in the east, they telling you different lies in the west, they tell you different lies in the north and in the south district of the city. And when you come ask them for solutions, they look at you like you goddamn crazy. So those who are in those houses who are soon to be homeless being pushed out because you had these restrictions on don't be on the streets by 5 p.m. because of the pandemic. Moratoriums are ending for energy and for rent as well. Landlords beating at your door. So we go into that third phase of these contradictions in housing before we proceed to education. And then my final point is the landlord question, the landlord class. Okay, good. So with that, if everyone's, again, an essential worker or an essential boss, why do you need a boss? Why do you need a landlord if that's important? We got to ask ourselves these questions. Because most of the time, that landlord will rent you a hole in the wall that they purchased just so they can live out in Montgomery County. You know? And that's the thing. And when they ain't coming to put you out. They gonna come get them over there or the sheriff's office. You can't get the sheriff's office to board up homes that got trees growing in the middle of them. God damn. Like, but they coming to put your shit out on the street. I mean, is it me or is it a contradiction that we talk about housing? And then we come into finally from those who are trying to get in the home, and those who are in a home are being pushed out, and those who are just pretty much lost in between where they don't know where to go. It's about the access to information so you can better yourself, so you can get access to those resources. Because I tell you, if everyone is out here right now isn't in the ruling class section, you sure as hell in the oppressive class, you sure is the worker. You are the one that's being oppressed. And even if you're not a homeowner, you're probably much closer to homelessness than you are owning a home, because you don't get the same benefits as a nonprofit corporation or church or any kind of developer that's downtown that makes sure uptown looks the way it do now. So I want to make sure, moving to that next point, we want to talk about education and how housing connects to education. We talk about housing and education. What are the commonalities? Okay, they tell you, depending on how good the property taxes or the ground taxes accrued from those houses in the area, will give you a better school. Well, I mean, again, just said again, if there are homes in there, if there are no families to occupy those homes, then there's no property taxes to be accrued. If there's no schools to be in there, there's no teachers, no volunteers, no PTA, no nothing. That's a dead community. Or I guess as, again, the president or the administration that's leaving, that's a shithole, as he would call it, right? So we're looking at those contradictions where we talk about education, where we're still dealing with the fact that folks who are on the verge of being pushed out of their housing are still being pushed inside of schools to work during the time that they know that the 23 counties that are inside the state of Maryland are being forced to go home, but in Baltimore City, they making them secretaries go in there. Like, again, we making those connections to understand that if there are no homes in the community, there are no parents. If there are no parents, there are no students. If there are no students, there are no teachers. There are no schools. That's not a community. You know, that's another question of blight. That's another problem. So speaking on these education aspects, we need liberation education. We need political education. We need to know exactly who all your class enemies are. When you want $15 an hour, who's the ones that's going to sit in the bathroom and not vote? Who's the one that's going to abstain? And who's the one that's going to vote no? And who's the one that's going to make up like stupid shit like a donut hole that because they can't pass the bill so you can get out of poverty through education so you can own a home? And again, I do not want to be up here, again, being here, putting myself on anyone's totem pole or any kind of way. I want to make sure that it's understood and that it's clear that housing and education are both one and connected. So with that being said, the reason why we are building an independent black worker-led political party is that we understand that the poor and working class, the most oppressed in this country and in this state and in this city, in Baltimore City and in PG County, are poor and working class black folks. So we have to understand that our class interests do not sit with those who look like us, who tell us one thing and do another behind closed doors. We must organize. So if you do not belong to an organization that's looking to have fight back programs around community control of housing, education, the police, and anywhere where they tell you your tax dollars go out one door and go out the window and you don't see nothing for your community yourself, get with that organization. Because you're going to wish that you had an organizing mechanism to fight back against these fork-tongued politicians, class enemies, traitors, and the landlord class that tell you one thing and work with the police and fight back against you on another. My name is Brandon Walker, and I'm with the Ujima People's Progress Party.